Listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game.
If you're looking for the best basketball talk in the universe, you just found it. This is Deep Hoops, where fans are the host. Tim Brayboy, Troy Ramel Royal, and me, your point guard, Jehudi. We're talking basketball, all basketball, and nothing but basketball. So sit back and enjoy the best basketball talk in the podcast universe. This is Deep Hoops.
All right, we're back. I don't know where we left off because in between the breaks, we went at it. In between the breaks, it didn't let up. It's close. He's playing horseshoes over here. Tim brought up something in our production meeting. That's why I thought he was going to be here. That this is going to be the first playoff in the new millennium that will not have LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and the way that it looks, DWade. And you can go on. There's no Paul Pierce. There's a couple of people that have carried the league to this point. My question to you is, how is it going to impact your interest in the game, the play in the playoffs, and the ratings?
Well, for me, it doesn't have an impact on the game.
Not on on your interest.
On my interest in the game. I'm going to watch the games, and I think I'm going to be entertained by the games, and I'm going to enjoy it. As far as the ratings go, definitely the DWade fans and the LeBron fans are truly disappointed and possibly might tune out a game or a series or something like that. But the way I look at it, at some point it was going to happen. Mm-hmm. It was going to happen, and I'm surprised it's happening this year. I said early in the year in the season that the Lakers will not make the playoffs, and it happened. Miami was a playoff team last year. I didn't see them not making the playoffs, but this is just a sign that the NBA is in good hands.
It's in great hands.
Great hands.
Giannis, Embiid, one that's not going to be there that I wish he would have been there is Victor Oladipo. Melo won't be in the playoffs, but
Well, hold that thought. The Los Angeles Clippers just waived, can't think of his name. He used to play with Houston.
Okay, right. I know you're talking about.
Can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Because he had a knee season-ending knee surgery. Mm-hmm. So they have a spot.
But would he be able to play in the playoffs?
Yes.
How?
I guess they're in the clause. They can sign a player the day or tomorrow that would be playoff eligible.
You telling me Melo could be in the playoffs?
He could be on the playoff roster. That would be interesting if the Clippers felt that they needed a veteran presence and go out and get Cumberland. That would be interesting.
Doc, I'm begging. I did this before. Doc, I'm begging you, sign Melo. Okay? Yo, Doc, come on, man. We like this. You know what I'm saying? Come on, Doc.
The last time you did that, if I recall correctly, you said that the San Antonio Spurs
and they got into the playoffs.
And you were very adamant about it.
Very
adamant.
And you reminded me.
Yes. Would you like to have something to say to the audience on that?
No. I made a prediction. I was wrong. No. What? Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm wrong. What? I'm not going to apologize for being wrong.
Can I have my straw back?
Come on. If we go back to the video, there's going to be something you're wrong on too.
I'm always.
That's why we do this. So people can laugh at us.
It's for entertainment.
Hey, listen, I was wrong. All right? San Antonio's in the playoffs. They ain't going they were going to be out in the first round, but they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're playing Golden State.
They're playing Golden State. They're gone. They're done.
I don't even think they win a game.
Nah, they probably won't. They're
getting swept.
They're going to get swept. All right. So you think the ratings could be impacted?
Yeah, I think the ratings could be impacted, but I don't think the level of play will be impacted. I think that the NBA, especially with the new rules that's in place, it promotes scoring, and I just think that it's still going to be entertaining and some great games and series to watch.
So, but now let me ask you this: with the ratings, you're saying possibly being impacted, who are going to be the ratings must see? Is it going to be Giannis? Is it going to be Harden? Is it going to be? I mean, Golden State is still in it. They're a ratings juggernaut. So I don't see the ratings really being impacted. I think if the Lakers had been great all season and LeBron, got hurt, and then they didn't make the playoffs, maybe that would impact it, because what could have been, you knew early, I mean, not early on, but you knew by the halfway mark that it was going to be a slim chance that they were going to make it.
Yeah, I think the East Coast games might have an impact on ratings because you are missing LeBron and you're missing DWade. I don't think there's a player in the East that would generate the same kind of fanfare that LeBron did. And that was the risk with him going out west. And even if he was in the playoffs, and being out west, you still have a risk of some low ratings because not everybody's going to watch these 10:30 games. Mm-hmm. So I do think the ratings might be affected, let's put it that way, in the East, unless somehow or another
Giannis,
they can galvanize around Milwaukee before the playoffs begin to bring this interest.
But I'm going to tell you another team that's going to generate a lot of interest, and we failed to mention them when we were talking about the East. That 4-5 matchup, Indiana and Boston. Boston is going to generate a lot of interest.
I think we may touch on a bit of this a little bit later on, but the 4-5 matchup is usually the best matchup.
Right.
Period. It's usually the team
evenly, right.
Evenly.
Mm-hmm.
But missing Oladipo could impact the ratings on that. I think Boston is going to bring ratings, but I think if Oladipo was there, it could bring a little bit more. And here's the thing about Oladipo that is interesting. People know him in Orlando because he played there. People know him in OKC because he played there. And they know him in Indiana. So he's got a little fanfare. And people like him. He's singing when he can. People respect that guy. I think that if he was healthy, it would have an even better impact on the ratings.
Let me ask you a question. Anyone that knows Oladipo is a basketball fan. And a basketball fan, a true basketball fan, is going to watch the playoffs. LeBron is going to impact the casual basketball fan. Wade is going to impact the casual basketball fan. Oladipo's not impacting the casual basketball fan. They don't know him.
You know what?
So I don't think that his absence is going to have one iota of a difference on the playoffs.
I think so, because his absence could lead to them getting swept.
So, but it won't impact the ratings, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, because if he's there, they don't get swept. And maybe as the series goes on, it goes to a game 7 and more people tune in and watch.
But people are going to be watching that series for Boston, whether he was there or not. I just don't think that he has not reached the level of making a difference rating-wise. Play-wise, execution-wise, they're competing at a high level. Yeah, I get it. And to that point, that's where you're saying that it can impact ratings. Nah.
Yeah.
I think Boston fans are going to be watching that in droves.
I think you're underestimating that. But we'll agree to disagree.
But, so what else can impact the ratings?
I mean, just that. I mean, the fact that you don't have LeBron in there, that's going to impact the ratings a little bit because you have the non-basketball fans. But
were the ratings impacted when Kobe missed out? When his first season out of the playoffs?
No, because, I think that's when Golden State started to take off. And it gave people a reason to stay up at 10:30. And
I think they still have that.
And you still had LeBron on the East.
And they're going for 4 straight, right? No, 3.
Going for three straight 4
and 5 years. And right. And if KD stays, then they'll be going for 4 straight. And that's the reason why KD may stay and not go to our beloved Knicks.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of our beloved Knicks, it is now time for Raw the GM.
Wow.
So, Ra, I shut up and let you talk. Tell us what you're going to look at right now.
All right. So as Rod, the GM, this is a segment where I pretend that I'm a GM of a certain team, and tonight, has been chosen to be the GM of the Lakers and of the New York Knicks, my beloved New York Knicks. I'll start with the New York Knicks first. Believe it or not, when I look at the Knicks franchise and I look at the Laker franchise, I might shock many when I say this, but I think the Knicks is in a better state than the Lakers. And it's hard to say that for two reasons. One, because we got a dysfunctional owner in James Dolan. And the Lakers actually have the better talent. But if you take James Dolan to the side, because really James Dolan has not gotten in the way of management. James Dolan has gotten in the way of other things. Where he's getting into it with fans.
Right.
Charles Oakley. But if you look at management,
He's allowing them to
do what they do. So from a management standpoint on down, the Knicks is on the same page. They're in sync. There's no dysfunction from that part of the franchise. Now, let's go to the Lakers. From the owner through the management, they're a little bit dysfunctional. I don't think Jeannie, Magic, and Rob Pelinka is on the same page. If Jeannie has her way, Luke Walton returns next year. Whether that's the best move or not. But there seems to be not on the same page among the management team and ownership. So that's a problem there. And then that's trickling down because LeBron and the players don't seem to be on the same page. So even though they may have the better player and better talent, that might be a difficult job to work with over the summer, trying to put it together because, for one, they got to get on the same page on what they're going to do with the head coach. And if they're not on the same page with the head coach and the other one flex their muscle, who's going to win?
But how do you make it work?
Well,
you're the GM. Rob Pelinka and Magic are gone. Jeannie fired them.
Here's the thing. If I'm the GM of the Lakers, the first move I look at is, never mind the head coach. We'll work that out. Who do I bring in? I have one max contract available. How do I improve this team? I cannot bring this team back together. I can't bring this team together back next year. There's no way. So the first move I look for, what do we need? Do we need a wing? Do we need a big man presence? LeBron doesn't want to play in the post. He wants to play point guard. He wants to be out on the perimeter. I need a little post presence. Unfortunately, the Lakers is going to have to overpay a free agent and then trade for the wing person. The only player that I think that they can trade for right now is Bradley Beal. You trade for Bradley Beal, and then you overpay to bring in Boogie Cousins. And then you address the coach situation, and with that move, the only coach I'm bringing in is Mark Jackson. Now, if that's not on the table where they can agree on that, and I got resistance, then as the GM, I'll do the unthinkable. If Luke Walton has to stay because Jeannie Buss put her foot down and said, Luke is my guy, he has done nothing wrong, he's staying here, then I'm calling Houston and see if I can unload LeBron James. And I'm trading LeBron James to Houston, and my offer would be Capella, Eric Gordon, and Nene for LeBron James. And I'll rebuild from there.
But then that wipes out you getting Cousins and
right. No free agent or nothing like that. You just bring that along, and if you do get any free agent, then you start looking at the mid-tier free agent. I think Houston will take that trade. I think that they'll go out and sign a free agent center like JaVale McGee or somebody like that. It is a veteran team.
How does that change their style of play? I mean,
I don't think.
And I know it's a different subject, but
I don't think it does. I think it helps D'Antoni a lot because he likes to play veterans anyway. He's not a guy who's with the
But
youth.
LeBron has only played one way.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that he would fit in with them, and it gives them another ball handler. It might free up Harden to shoot threes. I think it will work for both teams. It's a little bit drastic. Then the Lakers can rebuild with Capella. Maybe they can go out there and find a power forward, whether it's Thaddeus Young or maybe a veteran like Paul Millsap. Get some of these players in their more rightful positions, talking about the Ingrams and the Kuzmas. I don't think you give up on Lonzo Ball right away, but if you decide to, you can always get a point guard that's out there. I think that's what you do if you're the Lakers. If Luke Walton, it has to be maintained, kept, then you have to trade LeBron.
Okay, so I don't see that happening. What do you do with the Knicks?
Oh, with the Knicks, it comes down to a couple of things. First of all, it starts with the ping pong balls. It really does. New York can't afford to be 3. They have to be 1 or 2. The idea is Zion. By all means, it's Zion. Now, this is not going to sound too favorable for Knicks fans, but if Zion is the number 1 pick, and we have him as a New York Knicks fan, I'm looking to get Kevin Durant and Kemba Walker. I know the census out there is Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And yes, Kyrie Irving is a better player than Kemba Walker. The numbers are pretty even and equal, but the better player is clearly Kyrie Irving. But the reason why I go with Kemba Walker, I think the money is going to be better because I don't think you have to pay him as much as you pay Kyrie Irving. I think you could save maybe $5 million. But also, Kemba Walker will play 82 games, while you have Kyrie Irving only playing 60 games. And I think that is more important than maybe having the better player, possibly having the healthier player, and even towards the playoffs. We've seen now too many years that Kyrie has sat out playoffs. And the New York Knicks can't afford to spend that money and miss him in the crunch time.
So you would not sign him at all?
If Kevin Durant is not attached to Kyrie Irving, I would go after Kemba Walker to go along with Zion and Kevin Durant. I think that $5 million that you save, you can re-sign DeAndre Jordan, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, at the minimum veteran, not minimum veteran, but the mid-level exemption. And I think you can go out there and possibly steal a Danny Green for $5-7 million a year to put in that backcourt with Kemba Walker. You put Knox at the 3, Durant at the 4. You put Durant at the 3, Zion at the 4, and DeAndre Jordan at the 5. And I think the Knicks will be back in it. A team that can compete for the championship, especially if Kawhi leaves Toronto, which makes Danny Green available. And only team you're worrying about is Milwaukee, because they're the only set team. Mm-hmm. Boston, you don't know what they might have, because if Kyrie decides to, I'm going to Brooklyn.
Or I'm going to L.A.
I doubt if he goes to L.A., but he goes to Brooklyn. Maybe him and Jimmy Butler goes to Brooklyn. If that happens, then Boston is no longer the same. If Kawhi bounced, Toronto's no longer the same. And then, as you mentioned earlier, we don't know if Butler is coming back. So Philly may not be the same. The path is starting to widen open for the Knicks to just go up the chart. Now, if the Knicks do not get the number 1 pick and they don't have Zion, and then they happen to get Ja Morant, which is the point guard, then that changes who you go after in a free agency. Then now the perfect package would be Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. I doubt if those two would team up. But if you drafting Ja Morant, then now I'm going Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, and I'm looking to trade Dennis Smith Jr. to see if maybe I can get a pick or maybe some low salary players that maybe can fill out the rotation and help out. But that's what I would do as the Knicks.
All right. We want to hear from you. What do you think about Rod the GM? Is he foolish? Is he on point? Is he stirring the straw that's stirring the drink? We want to hear from you. So respond on Facebook, respond on YouTube, respond on Twitter, respond on Instagram. All of that is going to be right here. We want to hear from you. Now, before we go to our closing comments, by Wednesday, we will probably be saying farewell to one of the greatest players, and that's not hyperbole, in basketball history. I'm not saying the greatest, but one of the greatest players in basketball history. To be exact, I would like to see them do the 50 greatest again. Reshuffle it and see where this man would come in. DWade is about to retire at the end of this season, and it looks as if he's not going to make the playoffs. What are your thoughts on saying goodbye to DWade? And then, what are your thoughts on Mr. Paul Pierce saying that he had a better career than one DWade?
Okay. DWade was a guy that I rooted for. I liked him. Before he was named Flash, I just liked DWade. I thought he played the game somewhat like Westbrook, just hard. He played it well, and he entertained us, and he wowed us. And he did it with a sense of humbleness, and he had mannerisms. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, he did. And I mean, this is a guy that left money on the table so many times in Miami to accommodate others. And all he does is just go out there and play the DWade that we know. And for me, he's the number 3 shooting guard to play this game, behind Jordan and Kobe. And with that said, if they reshuffle the deck, I think he's in the top 50. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, Paul Pierce, I grew up with a guy back in Ravenswood by the name of James Miles, and he always compared my game to Paul Pierce. He said Paul Pierce and I had a similar game. And when I listen to Paul Pierce as an analyst, we kind of talk alike too. I mean, he says some outlandish things, and as you say, I'm a straw that stirs the drink. So again, there's a lot of similarities. And a lot of things that he say I roll with. But when he said he had a better career than DWade, hey, listen, no knock on Paul Pierce, a lot of respect. And he should feel comfortable. When you got a nickname in this league, and he had one, the truth. And he was the truth. But we're talking about Flash. I got some stats.
Go to the stats.
You know, he was the number 10 pick in the first round. Wade was 5th. You know, he's 15th. You wouldn't know this. But Paul Pierce is 15th all time in scoring in the NBA, regular season, while DWade is 30th. But Paul Pierce is a 10-time All-Star. DWade is 13-time. Paul Pierce, All-NBA second team once, 3 times All-NBA third team. Wade, 2-time All-NBA first team, 3-time All-NBA second team, 3-time All-NBA third team, 3-time All-NBA defensive second team. Both of them finals MVP. Wade has 3 championships. He has 1. I think Pierce loses this one right here. DWade has definitely enjoyed the better career. Paul Pierce played 19 years. DWade is on his 17th year. Maybe that might be the difference in scoring somewhat, but I got to go with DWade.
What do you think of Paul Pierce's argument? If I played with, and even aging Shaq, if I played with LeBron and Bosh in their primes, all of them in their primes, he would have had a better career. He would have had better numbers and won more championships. Or if he played with Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, if all 3 of them were in their primes. What are your thoughts on that? He never got help. Basically what he was saying, when he was in his prime, he didn't have help.
Here's the thing. If he had to play with Shaq, take DWade off that team. That playoff run, DWade averaged 33 points a game. All right? Ironically, Paul Pierce has only averaged 19.7 for his career. DWade has averaged 22-point game for his career. DWade has averaged 22 points a game in the playoffs. Paul Pierce has averaged 22 points a game in the playoffs. I don't think that Paul Pierce playing with Shaq in Miami and not DWade there would have did the things that DWade did. DWade played more like Allen Iverson, where he was the 1 and the 2. Paul Pierce has only played one way. That's the 3. Now, ironically enough, he didn't do too bad with passing the ball. 3.5 assists for his career. But I don't think Shaq and Paul Pierce in Miami wins a championship. No, I don't think so. Now, you put Paul Pierce on the LeBron and the Chris Bosh team, yeah, they can win a championship.
Of course.
They can win a championship. But I take D-Wade's career over Paul Pierce. Now, believe it or not, the small forward after the center might be the deepest talent probably in NBA history. And Paul Pierce is not a top 10 small forward probably of all time.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Not a top 10 small forward.
He may not be a top 10 small forward of all time.
Name your top 10.
Well,
Off the dome.
I would start with the Larry Birds, LeBron James, all right? And you start looking at the Dominiques, the maybe Worthy, Bernard King, Scottie Pippen, and these are just names that's coming to mind. I'll take Melo over Pierce.
I may do that, but I don't know.
I'll take Melo over Pierce.
You take Neek over him?
Oh, yeah. I want to ask you something. Neek won the Central Division just about every year with guys like Dan Roundfield and Tree Rounds. You talk about a star that didn't have no help? Doc Rivers, maybe? Can you name the shooting guard that he had?
Didn't he have
John Battle?
Battle, yeah.
Come on, man. I mean, I don't know where Doc Rivers was the successful starting point guard in the NBA. I mean, he
was solid.
He was. That's it. That's it.
All right, when Paul Pierce was running with the Boston Celtics before he got help, who was he running with?
His best year really was when him and Antoine Walker was playing with Kenny Smith.
Right.
I mean, Kenny Anderson.
Kenny Anderson.
But they had shooters. They made some playoffs and this and that. But what Dominique was doing, he did it with nobody. John Concat.
Once again, who did Paul Pierce do anything with?
Well,
every name that you name is better than anything that Paul Pierce played with, including John Battle, including Kevin Willis, including Doc Rivers. Paul Pierce would be
Antoine Walker was a ball player. If Dominique had an Antoine Walker, a player of that caliber, maybe they go to a conference final, or maybe they go to a championship. He didn't play with another all-star player. At times...
And how many all-star games did Antoine Walker make?
At times, Antoine Walker was the better player than Paul Pierce.
He was never the better player than Paul Pierce.
It was a year or two, he was the better player.
He was never a better player than Paul Pierce.
After the show, we'll look at their seasons together.
Okay. All right. We'll look it up. And we want you to look it up, too. We'll be right back. Well, another good show, Rob, but of course, it is our favorite time, the time that we dedicate to our closing comments. So, Rob, you have the floor.
Well, I'm going to owe my closing comments to the best broadcasting tandem that does basketball games, and that is Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. Early in the day, I happened to see a Twitter feed where Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy was calling another game. It may have happened today in the OKC game against Minnesota. And it was talking about the foolishness that took place in Houston. The game was out of reach. They were blowing out the Knicks. It might have been about 5 to 6 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter. And the players had already went to the locker room. And they were disgusted by it. And they were saying that should not be allowed. And that doesn't show sportsmanship. It doesn't show respect for your opposition, nor does it show respect for the game. But I think that in the NBA, and I'm a huge NBA fan, and I love the game. I'm a bigger fan of the sport than I am of the New York Knicks. But I think this is a bigger problem. I think that these players are allowed to dictate and do what they want to do. I mean, from the load management to the way they talk to referees out on the court, and to now just getting up, walking out, and going to the locker room to get a head start on treatment. Like Jeff Van Gundy said at that moment, it's just 5 minutes. What's another 5 minutes? There was one player that was left on the bench, if I'm correct, and that was Iman Shumpert, who happens to be a former Knick. Maybe that's the reason why he stood there. We don't know. But not to take anything away from him, maybe he was exhibiting sportsmanship and paying respect to the game that pays him respectfully. I think that this is the kind of stuff that could affect ratings. That where people are looking at, you already had, just shut up and dribble, LeBron. Where they're looking at it, just do your job and stay out of this. Well, if that's the case, they're going to look for you to do it with respectfulness. Do it with class and be humble. This is a game that features 30 teams, 15 players on a team. There's 450 jobs that are getting paid 7 figures a year for something that you love to do. You got people from all countries and all walks of life that is trying to come over here on a given day for 3 jobs per team each year, which comes out to 90 jobs. You got over 440 Division I schools that have players that are on interviews every year that's trying to get one of these jobs. Not to mention you got Division II, Division III, G Leaguers, overseers, and so forth that is trying to get one of those 90 jobs. And you are blessed with talent, God-given talent, to have one of those jobs, and yet you can't pay respect to the game that pays you respectfully, and you can't show sportsmanship. This is something that the commissioner needs to address, because this is unacceptable and it should not be tolerated.
I agree. I have one question. I didn't know about that. Was that the game that D'Antoni was out?
Yes, it was.
That's just total disrespect, and D'Antoni should do something about that. Excellent closing comments. My closing comments are not going to be as controversial. I'm going to be positive on my closing comments. There are a couple of teams that are looking for a GM right now. We know that the Pelicans are looking for a GM. Washington is looking for a GM, and there's probably going to be some other jobs that are going to open up once the season ends. There's one individual that I think every team that is looking for a GM should be interviewing, and I'm going to say, like, when Sam Mitchell got fired and came back to NBA radio, I called him one time and I said, "Yo, Sam, listen, I know you want to be a coach, and I'm not saying that I'm, happy that you got fired, but I'm glad you're back on the radio." Because Sam Mitchell did it the right way. Well, there's an individual that is going to be interviewing for the GM jobs that he has educated me so much on what goes on behind the scenes and what a GM, all of the things that a GM has to do. And all of the things that he has to consider with the analytics and the play and, agents and everything else. And that's David Griffin. David Griffin, if he is not in a job next year, something's wrong. Yeah. David Griffin is a savant, in my opinion, from a GM standpoint. And David Griffin better have a job next year. And I'm going to tell you something. If he gets the job, everyone is saying that he won't do a deal with that the New Orleans won't do a deal with the Lakers. From listening to David Griffin, you throw that out the window. David Griffin is a GM that is not going to hold a grudge, saying this team, if it's good for what he's trying to do to advance his team, he's going to do it. And that's why Dell Demps is gone. You've got to take the emotion out of it, and you have to do what's best for your team. And you can't be, ego cannot have a place in the GM office. The GM has to be open-minded and think about what's best for his team. And that's what David Griffin does. So, David, let me say this. You deserve to be a GM. I'm going to miss you on the radio and on television. But you know what? I'll have to deal with that. That'll be my loss because I love what you do. But what you do and what you really do is work as a GM. And I need you working for a team, helping to build another winning franchise. So David Griffin, I salute you. And we can't end the show without having another salute to our man, DWade. We salute you, DWade. That's it for Deep Hoops. I don't know where Tim Brayboy is. I know he's back from China because he brought some chopsticks and everything. We had that. I don't know what he's doing, man. I think he's eating some egg foo young somewhere. But, we are not experts. We're passionate fans talking about the game we love. I am the minister.
And I'm Rob.
And we'll talk to you the next time right here on Deep Hoops. Peace.